welcome. Let's go with it.
Try number 2.
Welcome. No, let's go with it.
Yeah. No, it's good.
Cool.
Continue.
Welcome, guys. That's it. So I think we've talked about this before, but I always try out like intros, and Corey makes me laugh.
I don't know why. I just stare at you in disappointment.
I just kind of, I was going for like, hey, everybody, welcome to, one of those, but didn't work. So
yeah, most of the time they don't work out. Yeah. If you have suggestions for Jeremy's intro,
let me know.
Please let us know.
But welcome, guys.
Yeah. Glad to be back.
That's all I have to say.
Again. How's it going? How you feeling?
Feel good.
It's good.
Yeah. Let's see. I feel good.
Good.
I can say a good one more time if you want. Today I was working on like our schedule for the next few weeks for the business for like deliveries and whatnot, and it kind of had me a little bummed out. Like there's so many events. It's really, really good, but
bummed out like you're gonna be busy.
Dude, yeah, it's crazy.
I think I'm bummed out like it's empty or something.
No, just like long days. Like starting 6, 7 in the morning, finishing at 3 or 4 a.m. Like, just super long days. So
yeah, I
just want to get through it, but I'm good, really good. How about you?
It's good, man. I'm good as well. Been super busy, continuing to be very busy. I'm really tired right now as of this recording. But yeah, I mean, a lot of cool stuff in the works. I'm excited for the stuff we're working on for Cultivate and Keep, as well as some other things that I've got going on. Work has been going good. I'm really excited for to just push like the rest of this like that to the end of the year. I feel like there's like a lot of stuff that has like kind of been building up, and like now is like a really good time to like, okay, let's get this out the door, let's push this to the finish line, let's finish this thing, or like let's create this thing finally. So yeah, I'm excited to like see how much more we can get done by December.
Yeah, I was thinking today on the way over here about doing our end of year review.
Yeah,
which,
I know.
Seems so weird, but I mean it's already almost September. Well, when this comes out, it will be September.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, like bonkers, like so crazy that the year's already almost over.
Even, I mean,
it is so crazy.
I keep thinking about like, like our end of year review's coming up, and even our mid-year review, which we just did in July, already seems like forever ago. But what's also crazy, I'm thinking about our 1 year like Cultivate and Keep anniversary. So like we'll have to create some special episode or something, because October 1st will officially be 1 year of doing the podcast published. Because last year we launched on September 31st. This year it lands on the 1st, but it's the next Tuesday that we'll release, basically.
Cool.
And that's crazy too. Yeah. Like, wow, I can't believe we've been at this for a year, and like, all right, what's the new things? What are we doing? What's in the works? How are we improving?
It honestly feels like a few months.
Yeah.
Like really, it just feels crazy.
But on the podcast news too, also I've been looking at the analytics, and last month, as of you hearing this, but this month in August, has been going really good, and like a 50% increase from last month, which was our best month ever. So, continuing to be surprised by how many people and who listens, and the countries that people listen to. It's been really cool.
Listen from.
Yeah, listen from. Yeah. The countries that people listen to us from. There you go. There it is.
It's a stretch, but okay.
It works. You know what? We'll just move on.
Well, I was thinking about that earlier too, like all the listens, and I want to say like thank you. Like that's really cool.
Yeah,
like,
thank you guys.
I don't know. When we record, I don't know about you. I don't even think about anyone listening to it. Like,
not really.
Probably isn't good.
Yeah.
I literally just like talk to you,
right.
And I kind of forget I have a microphone and whatever. But I kind of remember like people do listen, and hopefully it's helpful, and it hopefully adds to their life. So thank you for listening. And like we said a few weeks ago, if you have any questions or shout outs or anything you want us to talk about, feel free to email us or reach out, and we would love to kind of expand what we do and what we talk about.
Yeah. And for all the newbies out there who are just catching up on some of these later episodes, feel free to go back to the older ones. I'm sure like I haven't listened to any of the old episodes. I don't listen to any of them because I don't like listening to myself. And also I said it, so like why would I need to listen to it?
So I just listened to like part of one today for the first time.
Really?
I think when we first recorded, I listened to the first few, and then I stopped. And so I don't think I listened to anything past probably the fourth episode.
Yeah.
And I did today for the first time.
Oh,
in,
no.
honestly, like probably 10 months.
Yeah.
It was so weird. It was really weird. But this might sound really weird, but like sometimes we'll record and I kind of think to myself like, did I say what I wanted to say? Like, was it good? And today I listened to it and I was like, oh, it was better than I thought. Like I thought we did an okay job.
Yeah.
So anyway, you should listen to a few of them.
I don't know. I'm going to see
super
how long
weird.
I can go without listening to them.
I don't like it. I did, again, this is probably like my third one I've listened to. It was weird.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's crazy to me. Like, someone came to me the other day and were like, oh, I just listened to like the episode with like so-and-so or whatever. And I was like, oh, wow, that was like one of the first ones.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wow, people are still going back and listening to all those.
Yeah.
And I think about how I listen to podcasts too. I'm like, yeah, if I like a podcast, I go back to the beginning and then I like start and I just kind of like plow through it. I've heard a couple of people doing that. So thank you guys for going back, for listening. Also, if you haven't, like, go back and pick out some episodes. Because there's a lot. I mean, that's the whole point of the podcast, is like, it's not just what's happening today, but like it's for forever.
Yeah. Maybe our kids will listen one day.
Maybe.
Little Jeremy Jr.
Is that what you name him?
Of course.
Yeah.
No. You think Connie would let me do that?
No, probably not.
I wouldn't want to.
Yeah. No.
But
cool, man. Well, what are we talking about today?
you tell me.
Nice.
That's an Office reference for you.
There we go.
For real,
you tell me.
This was your topic, bro.
Oh, that's right. It was mine, huh?
So you're up.
I feel like you had more to say about before we started recording.
Yeah, I guess,
but well, I wanted to address a little bit, dude. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world right now. Also, kind of we've been switching up the topics a little bit. So, sometimes we'll normally talk about maybe personal experiences, sometimes more like biblical topics or specific verses or passages. But I'm a little bit kind of like in the weeds of like, I wouldn't say like political issues, but more like societal issues maybe. And so this is one of them today, talking about, I don't want to like categorize it or like name it, but like, I don't know, Christian celebrity culture or like public figures, Christian celebrities. I don't know, like basically Christians who are in the limelight or who have a lot of following or audience, and how they do with that and what's been happening recently. So two that are top of mind are Joshua Harris and Clayton Jennings. We should probably stop with those two because there's plenty to go through with each of those. But basically just wanted to talk about each of them and what's happening. Like, I don't know, what do you do in response to it too? So you want me to catch you up on Joshua Harris? I can just give like a quick recap on what's been going on with him.
I also want to say, like, disclaimer, what we're talking about, all of it may not be facts. A lot of it is kind of what we've come to know. And when I say we, like, just kind of the public audience, like if you were to go research what you'd probably find. So
we haven't done
may not be fully true or accurate. But yeah,
right. Coming out of the angle from like, what would the average person know? So like we haven't looked at like a ton of like facts or cross-referenced or done any sort of journalistic research at all. So disclaimer, we probably don't know any more than you do, but that's kind of the whole point of it too. So Joshua Harris is a Christian author. He wrote, I think maybe it was like the early 2000s or late 90s. Again, don't quote me on this, but a book called I Kiss Dating Goodbye. I actually read it when I was in high school. So one day, I think I was maybe a freshman or a sophomore, and I came home from school, and the book was just on my bedside table. And so I was like, oh, interesting. But I thought it was one of my mom's books. So I was like, hey, were you reading on my bed, or like, is this yours? Maybe, I don't know, maybe someone like put it here on accident. And she's like, oh no, I thought maybe you would like to read it, or it might be interesting for you. And so I was like, okay. And then I ended up reading it because I thought it was, it's a really catchy title. And basically he talks about courting over dating and how dating sets people up for divorce is kind of his whole theory. And while interesting, I don't know how biblically founded it was, and it was a very like controversial topic at the time, especially. And then 3 years ago, he sort of announced, because now he's been a pastor, he was married, he had kids, etc. 3 years ago, he announced that he sort of like doesn't agree with what he wrote before, and kind of like apologized in a way for the book. And then just 2 months ago, here in 2019, he announced that him and his wife were getting separated and intended to get a divorce. And then just fairly recently, shortly after that, announced that he essentially no longer considers himself a Christian, and also announced that, also like kind of publicly apologized to the LGBTQ plus community for expressing views maybe that were hateful or full of bigotry, etc. And there's been a lot of response to it. Sort of my whole impetus to it and how I came across was I saw an article from FaithWire about actually the guy from Skillet, his response to it, because he like posted this video and like was kind of just like ranting a little bit. John Cooper is his name, and that like kind of went viral a little bit. But basically, he gave some thoughts. But anyways, that's the background of Joshua Harris.
Do you want me to talk about Clayton?
Yeah, let's talk about Clayton.
Okay. So Corey wanted to talk about this topic, and so I was just kind of doing research on like other figures, that are big and kind of what's going on. And I heard someone talk about Clayton Jennings a few months ago that something was happening, so I was looking into it, and I was fascinated what I found. I mean, I probably spent like an hour just like reading stuff and watching videos, kind of like learning about it. Clayton Jennings, from what I understand, is he was a pastor of a church, I believe, and he kind of got like more popular and like famous through his like preaching style and through his spoken word. So he I think he still has a pretty good size Instagram following. And he started posting these like spoken word videos, and then started making. He kind of grew his YouTube channel, and that's kind of how he got popular. And he came to Foothills, I want to say 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years
Somewhere
ago.
there.
He came and spoke at Future Quest, which is one of our like youth conferences over the summertime. And so I've heard him speak. I've seen him in person, and from my understanding, like he's kind of always had like a good reputation. Like he hasn't done anything too crazy. Long story short, from what I've researched and from what is on the internet, basically some things came out that he has had. I think it's 6 to 8 like inappropriate relationships with like girls at his church over the past I think 5 to 8 years that he's been a pastor. So a few of them were kind of before he was married, so he was single for a good portion of his like fame. So as he was preaching and traveling, he was single. And so apparently, like during that time, he had a few like inappropriate relationships, and then even after being married, I believe he confessed to committing adultery a few times on a few separate occasions. So it's kind of been like what's come out, and I think the bigger part of the story is like kind of how he has responded to this, which I think is what we want to talk about. But basically, he's been posting a lot of like pretty absurd, like crazy videos, like on YouTube, on Instagram, just anywhere on the internet, where he's essentially like going after those people that are calling him out. So, like these people that are basically saying, "Hey, like Clayton, did X, Y, and Z to me, or whatever happened." He's kind of saying like he's basically giving himself a defense and like putting all those people on blast, like making all their stuff public and sharing all this stuff. And it's been pretty like hostile. Like if you watch some of the videos, he's like really aggressive in the way he speaks, and he's using a lot of profanity, and it's kind of it like in a nutshell. But it's sad. Like it's crazy to see this guy. Like I was showing Corey the video, and he looks like he's like lost weight, and he kind of just looks like unhealthy. It's really weird. Like it's kind of sad. It's kind of like a bummer, but
Yeah, a little bit out of character from what you would normally see from him.
But anyway, that's kind of like both of these guys in a nutshell. And I don't know, I kind of wanted to like talk about like you have like these famous people that have something that me and you don't have. They have a what's the word, like a platform. They have audience. They have like a
Dude,
public.
we're famous. Come on.
Yeah, about that. But they've reached a lot of people. When I say you and me, I mean like everyday people.
Definitely
like
not
famous.
famous.
They reach a lot of people, and I think what we want to talk about is like if you're in that kind of situation, like how does that work? Like what can you do? Like what are the do's and don'ts, I guess? And then what about these guys that like have that and clearly like aren't managing it well? And
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things I just thought about was, I'm going to butcher it, but basically the verse where Jesus talks about kind of like warning a little bit of like, hey dude, like if you make a brother stumble, like it's on you a little bit. And like, it's not just like oh, whoops, sorry. It's like you have, there could be like some eternal consequences a little bit. And it makes me think a little bit, just about like the world that we live in and social media, the audience, like just the ability to get like a mass following. Like I mean, I don't think people really know the level of influence and actual like reach that they have, and how like crazy that is, and how much higher that basically, how much responsibility that puts on their shoulders. Um, and so the reason why, the reason I want to talk about it is because it's like, one, how do you respond to something like this, and like what kind of lens do you see this through? But also too, like, what should they be doing? Like how should you be handling all this kind of reach and responsibility?
When you say respond, you mean like if you're like a follower of these people, like how would
Yeah.
like now that like this person you've like followed, looked up to, like this comes out, like how do you react?
Right. Like, so starting with Joshua Harris, right? There was a lot of people who he had like a very dogmatic book of like, this is right and this is wrong. You shouldn't date. Dating is evil. You should court and build friendships and go straight from friendship to marriage. And it was like very like opinionated kind of piece that he put out there. And a lot of people bought into it, and a lot of people are influenced. A lot of people did it that way. And then he renounced it, right? And so he was like, I was wrong. I don't agree with this anymore. And so like, what about all the people who like followed him and trusted him and like used his advice? And what does that mean for them? Like, how would they feel? I read it. I didn't like follow it really. I didn't really, there wasn't like a lot that came from it for me. But even then, it's disappointing, right? I think either one of these, it's always so disappointing when like someone that you trusted, especially if they're like kind of famous and that you look up to, then goes and says that they were wrong, or that the advice they gave you wasn't actually right. It's like you kind of feel a little bit betrayed, like you would if it was a friend, right?
Yeah, when I was thinking about even like not famous people that we know. I think we probably can relate more to like, I don't know, like small group leaders you had growing up, or like people in like your church that have like fallen away.
Yeah.
Like I know several. I'm sure you do too. And like those listening, like I think that's probably easier to relate to. But yeah, I think you feel betrayed. You feel like, I think it causes doubt, like kind of rethinking what you were taught or learned from that person. I don't think it means that everything they taught you or said is like not true. I think
Right.
a lot of it is just like everyone's kind of on a journey. Everyone is like figuring out and kind of working through their life, and it's like a bummer, and it's like sad to see people like renounce their faith and kind of say this isn't true. But I think that doesn't discount what they taught. It doesn't discount what Joshua Harris taught.
Yeah. But what about, so these are actually two good examples, because Joshua Harris really didn't do anything wrong. He just fell away and renounced his faith.
Mm-hmm.
Clayton, on the other hand, did apparently a lot of things wrong, and as far as my knowledge, hasn't really like renounced his faith, or hasn't really said like, I'm walking away from the faith. I could be wrong on that, but they're two very different situations, but both influential people in the Christian kind of sphere, right? And so, like, how do you respond to each one of those, right? One was a Christian and walks away, but didn't really do anything wrong. The other did a lot of things wrong, but now is walking away. Like, they're two very different cases, and you have to treat them the same or differently. Like, how do you look at each one of those situations?
Well, man, I think that I think you have to look at each situation like, in itself. Like, I don't think like what may apply for Clayton probably won't apply for Joshua. Like, I think they're going to be separate. I don't know. I think it's hard because for me, okay, with these two situations, I have not really followed either of them. Have you followed Joshua? It sounds like you kind of have a little bit.
Not really. No.
But you're familiar with him to some extent.
Yeah. I read his book.
So do you have, what has gone through your mind like when you heard this? Have you felt like, I don't know, did you feel like shook at all? Did you feel like you had all these doubts? Like, what were your thoughts when you found out about him?
I think I was just sad initially. Like,
okay.
For both of them, I try always not to be like angry, because like, it's like you said, we're all human beings. I think that's something super important to realize and like to remember, is like, no one is perfect. And I think that's maybe even some of the cause of all of this, is that we put people up on a pedestal, and then we make them like God and holier than us, and somehow more capable to live a holy, righteous life, when in reality they're no more capable than any of us. And I think it was just sad for him. Like, one, it's doing a lot of harm to the church, and he's confusing a lot of people. But two, like, he's obviously battled a lot of stuff, and now so much longer, right now he feels the need to finally walk away. And like, you can't be like mad at him. Like, there has to be grace for everyone. So I think it was just really sad, you know?
I'm glad you said that about like not placing them on like a pedestal, because I was gonna mention that. Like, I think that's part of the issue. Like, you're gonna experience a lot of like letdown and disappointment if these people are like are like God to you, or like if you, I don't know, if you look to them in like with so much admiration and like respect, like, well, they're human, like they're probably gonna make a mistake at some point, whether it's extreme or not. And like in these cases, they're making extreme like turnarounds and like big mistakes. But yeah, I mean, if they are high up in your life, then yeah, you're gonna experience a lot of disappointment. I don't know the reference or really the context. I'm probably butchering it, but there's some verse about like talks about that. It talks about like putting your faith and hope in man. Like, you know, you will experience disappointment, and it's going to let you down.
Yeah, I mean, so with Clayton, when you told me, I mean, I had no idea. I haven't followed him, but also like I feel like I would have heard about it by now with some of the things that I follow. But anyways, honestly, one of the first thoughts that I had was like, not that it's not surprising, but I always felt like he had like this larger than life persona, and like there had to be something else, like more real going on, because it sort of seemed like his life was perfect. He's like has it all together. Everything's going great. And he kind of like talks and acts like, I don't know, like he has it all together, and a little bit like Cinderella story almost, like for a guy. And I don't know, maybe with like, I don't want to like stereotype him in some way, but it just seemed like he was culturally influenced. I don't know, like with the way, like he was trying to impress people.
That makes sense. I mean, well, so today I was watching like a video of his. I only got through part of it. It's like a 50-minute long video. I think I watched like maybe 7 minutes. But he was doing a Facebook Live video, and he basically, what he did was he kind of went through and like addressed and then like kind of confessed to like each accusation against him, what he was doing. And in the beginning, when I hit play, it was basically like him kind of restarting a video, and what he was saying was, he was like, "This is the fourth time, whatever, I'm putting this video on Facebook Live, and they keep cutting me off and taking it down because they're flagging it." He was like, "Well, I'm not gonna stop. I'm gonna keep going back and back and back. And you know what? I'm not gonna start telling my story until I have at least 5,000 viewers on this video." And then he starts upping it. He goes, 6,000, 7. I think he said it was like 8,000 people. What's crazy is within like 2 minutes he had it, and then he started talking. If he was being honest, but what I thought was interesting was, it's kind of like you were saying, like it kind of felt he was like, what's the word, being like fueled off of like the audience and like people wanting to hear his story, made him like want to share, which I feel like if I was in a spot like him, or I mean like that, I would be like in a cave. Like I would be like, don't talk to me. I'd be like super embarrassed and ashamed. And he's like has no problem just like talking about it, you know. And so to your point, I think for him it was like he enjoyed that like culture. He enjoyed like the fame, I guess you would say.
Yeah, I mean, I think back to a couple of the other pastors who have made mistakes, you know, whether it's through infidelity or through I don't know, some other, you know, crime or thing that they did wrong, maybe something that they said that wasn't right. And for the most part, I felt, you know, pretty like at least other Christians were very understanding of like, okay, their response has been very humble. They're very regretful. They've confessed it. They've admitted it. They're getting help, right? Or like they've, you know, they're working through it privately. His response though has been like a little bit disturbing, because one, he's been very public about everything, but also he's been like really like vengeful. I mean, in the video that you showed me, he was calling out a couple people, very aggressive, and saying like, come at me, like, I don't know, basically like fight me, or like I will find you, or like you, what do you say, like you've opened up something, or like basically like you put yourself out there, like now I'm gonna come like get you, and like you're gonna pay for it. And it's like, dude, where is the humility? Like, do you not feel any shame? Do you not feel any like, I don't know, I think about the verse, right, where it says like, vengeance is the Lord's, and like he's trying to take his own vengeance right now. Like he's mad. He's trying to justify himself. He's trying to make amends. And if anything, it's just very like reflective of where his heart's probably at right now, which is like he's scared and angry that he's put out there for all the world and he's been exposed. And instead of going to God with it, and instead of being humbled, and instead of releasing that and just owning up to it and saying, God, take care of it, he was like, why'd you have to come out? And why'd you have to say this? And, now that you've done this, like you could, he said, like,
leave us alone. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, you could have left me and my family like out of this, but like instead you chose to, bring this out to the world. And yeah, it just seemed like a very worldly response, which is disappointing.
So, like, where do we go with this? Like
Yeah.
like, I guess what's the point of talking about this?
I think that God has obviously a plan for everything, and that he works all things together for his good, and God's going to be glorified through this in some way. And a couple of the ways that I think is, to be honest, I think that there's been like an overemphasis and like love and infatuation with Christian celebrities,
Like people, yeah.
and people in general, even if it's pastors, right? There's sort of I've always had like a weird feeling about like how highly people place certain pastors in their lives, which of course, like you should hold your pastor in high esteem, but also you shouldn't treat them like a celebrity or like a rock show or like a, where it's like very over emotional. So I feel like it's kind of God slapping these people around and like, hey, wake up, church, like look at me, not at these pastors, like not at, these cool people who seem to have it all together and, use flashy words and make cool videos. It's like, focus your attention on me. And the second part too is like I said, don't hold these people in high esteem. It's so difficult. I think like we want to hold people to a higher standard, and they should to God, but we can't hold them to that higher standard. Like I can't feel betrayed when someone has made a mistake, and like you said, I met Clayton Jennings. I listened to all of his messages, and I thought he was a cool, nice guy. But I'm not gonna be like, Clayton, dude, what the heck? Like, why did you do that? Like, as if it had anything to do with me. Like I said, that's his life. He's got to figure that out with God. He's a human being. He's gonna make mistakes. So I'm not gonna pretend like, one, I'm better than him, but also like I'm gonna pray for him. I'm gonna be empathetic. I'm going to ask for God to really take over his life and his heart.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, like, just remembering kind of like what we said in the beginning, that like they're people, they're human, and like yeah, they were like placed in like a position of influence and given a voice, but at the same time, like they're just like me and you, and so
Yeah,
I don't know. I think like we have a lot of friends. We know people that have made similar mistakes, and so why should someone who's famous like get more like criticism than someone who isn't famous? Like,
yeah.
Everyone's kind of figuring this out. So that doesn't justify it, but it's, I guess, understanding that, so.
Yeah, I mean, have some grace, like the last thing that either of these guys need to hear is like, how dare you?
Mm-hmm.
Or like, what the heck, dude? Or like, you're going to pay for this, or, what are you doing? You're not living your life the right way. It's like, hey, I want you to know I love you and I pray for you and I'm sorry. And this sucks, but I'm here for you. We as a community or as a following, I want to support you, and we want ultimately for God's will, for God to overtake your heart, and for you to be made right with God too. Maybe that's a better response, right, than like angry Facebook comments like, "Duh, Clayton, I always knew he was bum," or like, "How dare you?" or like, "I always knew the book was crap." It's really not edifying at all.
Yeah. All right. Anything else on this?
No, I mean, would love to hear your thoughts on it. I think the lesson is like, yeah, again, don't hold people in places where they shouldn't be, and also have grace for people. Have a lot of grace for people, because we need a lot of grace, and these people are people at the end of the day.
3 points.
Yeah, go
Shit.
for it, dude.
You're out, dude.
Oh,
You're the closer. Trevor
I'm the
Hoffman.
closer. Okay, Put me in, coach. Here I go.
Unless the next one, do you want an intro?
Maybe.
I mean, maybe I can close.
Let's do that. Let's do that next time. Okay, look out for us next time. So 3 things really quickly. One is if you're interested in a 52-week long devotional and journal, Jeremy and I are thinking about putting something together. And so if you're interested in that, go to cultivateandkeep.com/journal. We'd love to keep you in the loop, ask you some questions, and help us with developing the product as well. Also working on a close, tight-knit community and little, place basically to get some practical resources for life and manhood and, things like finances, devotions, how to read, how to learn, other places where you can go to get some practical life tips, and as well as get us some accountability and some community there too. So if you're interested in that, go to cultivateandkeep.com/community. And finally, if you want some Cultivate and Keep merch, hats, shirts, hoodies, etc., go to
when you're talking, you're like moving your hand
/merch.
What?
It helps me, dude. You got to get into it.
I feel you.
All right.
Peace.
Peace.